Hi everyone, this is Jaris from Fandom Knitting and Crochet, and I wanted to show you how to seam a piece in crochet. So this is a rectangular piece of half double crochet. It's going to be a coffee cozy, and it calls for a seam with a yarn needle. So I have my yarn needle and I've got my loose ends. I have a pretty long piece, maybe about 18 inches is a good amount to have just to do this little seam on this piece that's about 4 inches long. And we want a seam that's strong, sturdy, and also fairly invisible. So rather than actually just crocheting this together where there would be a little bit of a lump, even with a slip stitch, I'm going to use the yarn needle to make a seam. So I like to start with the working yarn here. It's attached to this corner, and I do have a loose tail there that I'll weave in later. But since I'm attached over here, I'm going to start my stitches over on the opposite side. So I'm going to go in on the opposite side like this around the first little stitch that I have there, and I'm going to pull that through. And before I go all the way through, I'm going to line up my next stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to the first side and go through that one. So I'm going to slide that through, pull the stitch, and then I'm going to go up one. So I'm going to jump ahead one stitch here, go in this way, and then I'm going to go back into that same stitch I just worked on the other side. So it's kind of diagonal now, and I'm going to go in this way. So last time I came around that way, this time I'm going to go up this way through that stitch. So through here, back over, and through this stitch, and then I'm going to pull. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to skip one stitch ahead. So I'm going to go up one right here, coming from, I guess, the top to the bottom. And then I'm going to cross back over into the stitch I just worked, and I'm going to go through it that way. Pull tight, or fairly tight, not too tight, but tight enough so that you don't have any gaps. And then continue going that way across the whole seam. So go in through this way, back to the one you worked on before, so a little bit diagonal, and through. And then the same deal over here. I'm going to go ahead and just keep going down the line a little bit for you. Now, the piece that I'm working is a chain row attached to the final half double crochet row, so the stitches look a little bit different. The chain row, they look a little bit turned because that's how I do my starting chains. And I'm going into like the top of a half double crochet row, so it might look a little, the stitches don't look exactly the same in the way that they're facing, but for the most part they're the same. So what you're going to do is go all the way up, and you're working through one on this side, going into the one you worked on previously on the other side, and then up one, and you continue doing that all the way across until you have a nice, you'll see the seam is going to be nice and flat, and it looks pretty seamless. So you could have it either side of the work, and it's going to look really nice and clean and be very sturdy. So again, this is Jaris from Fandom Knitting and Crochet, and that is how you make a flat seam in a crochet piece.